Great, thanks a lot. Professor Paul, do you want to start?
Yeah, actually, yeah, I'm from Techno India. Hello.
Yeah.
Hello.
Yes. Yes. Okay, great. Hello, everyone. This is Ravi, Ranjan. Very excited to be here on behalf of Techno India University IIC and MCKVIE. This is a very interesting joint initiative where we are trying to talk about startup investment and how the ecosystem in India is kind of growing at a very fast pace. As you know, India is the third largest startup ecosystem in the world. This is something which we all should be very proud of, because while there are so many countries across the world, some of them are developed countries, some of them are developing countries. Indian startup ecosystem started getting very active just about 12 to 13 years, before. But in a very short span of time, Indian startup ecosystem has surpassed many countries across the world to become the third largest ecosystem in the world. Last year, in 2022, Indian startups raised more than $40 billion of investment. $1 billion is approximately 8,000 crore. So you can do the math. That is the amount of money Indian startups raised last year. In India, we also have the fastest growing unicorn ecosystem. What is a unicorn? A unicorn is a private company which is listed at $1 billion or above. Indian startups have created a lot of opportunities for jobs. They are solving very important problems. They are also contributing towards the growth of India. Looking at the current data points and the current development, the next 10 years are going to be the golden age of Indian startup ecosystem. As a student, I understand a lot of you are looking to get a job, which is absolutely okay. But I also recommend highly that you should consider building a startup as an option. Today, there are so many problems around us. The first step of building a startup is looking at a problem and finding a solution. If your solution is unique, people will pay you money to use your solution. As a young entrepreneur, if you want to build something, your college is the best place, because you're going to spend next 3 to 4 years at your college. If you start building something during your college days, by the time you finish your college, two things will happen. Either you will have a successful company, which means that you don't need to really go for a job or wait for a job. Let's say if your startup idea does not work really well during the college time, at least you'll have a lot of experience when you finish your college. And trust me, if you have tried building a company in your college and it has not worked well, but if you go to get a job, you will be given more priority over a student who's an absolute fresher. Now, having said that, building a startup is a very long journey. It requires various steps. And one of the very important step of building a startup is raising investment. As I mentioned, last year the Indian startups raised $40 billion. There are various ways through which you can get money from professional investors in the ecosystem. Anumitra has a very interesting presentation where he'll talk about various investment opportunities at various stages. I'm going to primarily touch upon the basics of startup investment. Now, before we go deeper into the conversation, you first need to understand the difference between a normal business and a startup. In a way, any business where you are making money selling products or services is a business, is a traditional way of scaling an idea and making money from it. Let's say, for example, you have a like a store in, let's say, Kolkata, where you sell momos. Everyone love eating momos in Kolkata, Delhi, everywhere. Your shop is doing really well. Every day you sell, let's say, 10,000 rupees worth of momos, which means that in a month you can make 3 lakh rupees. And then after paying all the expenses, your profit is 1 lakh rupees every month. It's a very good business, right? But it's a business. With the current form, you would not be able to scale this business so much that the value of the company becomes very high. Let's take the same example of momos. Couple of years ago, two friends together, they realized the opportunity of momos. Um, you know, they happen to be a very good friend of mine. They came together, they invested 30,000 rupees, and they opened up their first outlet. After the first outlet, they opened the second one and the third and the fourth one. But in the process, they invested a lot of time, effort, money on creating a technology based solution where the entire process can be automated and it can scale really fast. I'm talking about Wow Momo, which is today a 3,000 crore company. There are more than 400 outlets across India in various cities. This is a very basic difference between a business and a startup. There are a lot of examples. For example, if you think about Uber and Ola, there have been taxi companies for a long time everywhere. But then, Professor Paul, can I request you to please put yourself on mute? Hello? Yeah, thank you. So I was saying that there has been taxi companies for a very long time. But Ola and Uber created a technology platform where on one side you have demand from people who need a cab, and on the other side you have supply from taxi drivers who have a vehicle. Without owning even a single car of their own, Ola and Uber have really scaled across various countries in the world, and they have become a very interesting and powerful example of technology. Now, before I go to the next segment, I would like to, have a quick chat with the students present here. Have you, any of you have tried building something like a small company, maybe, creating a website, doing some freelancing work, or if you have any startup ideas? Ladies and gentlemen, anyone? Okay, great. Anyone else apart from you?
Actually, I want to go into the research, so I was thinking to develop a website so that students can access all of their data based on their study materials. Like if they want to prepare for any entrance exam, so that they can access any data from there. This is my plan. Actually.
Okay, very good. Um, as I said,
If it is
let me share
possible, then
another example with
if it is
yeah.
possible, that then I can make that app cost free access.
Okay. No, I was saying and that's very good. I was saying, let me share a very interesting story with you. Couple of years ago, there was a news article in Times of India. This was about a job opportunity in UP, Uttar Pradesh. The Uttar Pradesh police wanted to hire 10 people for a job where the education criteria is you should be class 5 pass out, and you should know how to ride a bicycle. The job was basically to deliver letters from one police station to another police station. You know what happened? More than 35,000 PhDs, 50,000 MBA, and 70,000 engineering students applied for this job. Nothing wrong with it. It's a good job. You get salary at the end of the month. It's a government job. But think about how sad it is that so much qualified people are going for a job where the criteria is so low. A lot of you might say that there are no jobs available in the market. But what I would say is that there are no skills available in the market. As a young person, you should be bursting with ideas. Around you every day, there are so many opportunities available. You should look at them, study how some of the really interesting companies across the world have built solutions, and you should build something in your college. Because, as I said, while you are in college, you have the best opportunity to build something of your own. And if you build something, there are a lot of investors available who would be able to give you money. So we'll have more discussion on that. Let me take this opportunity to invite the next speaker, Anumitra Ghosh. Anumitra has a very deep experience of working with young startups. He has launched some of his own very interesting projects like an Instagram group from Kolkata and a lot of other things. He has also worked with companies like Exotel and others, and he has a very nice presentation about funding opportunities for startups at various stages. Over to you, Anumitra.
Thank you so much, Ravi. And it's a pleasure to be sharing the same stage with you. And I hope that whatever I have to share today with young folks out here helps them in some way or the other, or kind of gives them that inspiration to maybe go ahead and try build something of their own. So, without wasting much time, I'll just quickly share my screen. But what I would urge all of you is if you can be interactive, because it doesn't really feel great to be talking to blank screen. But even if I can hear your voice and you ask questions of any sort, that's completely fine. So please feel free to interrupt me in between wherever you feel there's something that you want to ask, share, or discuss. I'll be happy to engage in that conversation. So before we jump to the whole what is funding, how to get it, what are the steps, what is the amount of money, I'm pretty sure the facts that Ravi mentioned right now, the numbers are huge, and maybe you can, maybe you cannot imagine the quantum of the figures that you mentioned and what it takes to build it. Uh, we would first try to understand what are the basics of it. What exactly is a venture, or what exactly is capital? So, and there's a reason why I haven't filled up anything in the slide and kept it blank because I wanted answers from each one of you and see what, in your perception, venture and capital mean. So anyone out there who wants to give it a shot, that what venture means to you? There's no wrong answers. There's nothing to be afraid or shy about. Feel free to introduce yourself and say what exactly a venture to you. Unmute yourself and go on. Okay, is my earphone not working or isn't anyone answering? So why don't you tell me what exactly does a venture mean to you? You're partially correct there. Let me get back to you. Anyone else who wants to give it a shot? Okay. All right. Maybe you can also put down your thoughts on chat. Maybe we can read that out as well. There's nothing to be shy about, or there's no wrong answers here. So exactly, it's not the capital or the amount or the resources that are needed. Venture is something which is an initiative.
Can I take a guess?
Yes, please go ahead.
Sir, I think that venture is the initial phase of funding, which is required for a startup at the very beginning, and capital, it is probably when it is an established business already, then the capital investments come in.
Okay, thank you for trying. That's a good attempt, but I think there's something where you have mixed up certain things. Okay.
So I
Anyone
also
else?
want to
Yes, please
add
go
on
ahead.
something.
Yeah.
So I think that venture is something in any company. If we are trying to invest, and that company has probably there is no chances of succeeding of that company. That will be we know that that company will not succeed in future.
Okay. So you are saying that you're investing in a company where you know which company would not succeed. Am I right in deciphering that?
Yes, I just want to relate with this.
Okay. Okay. Thanks for your answer. That's a good try. Anyone else who wants to add anything or come up with an answer? Anyone? Come on. There's no wrong answers or anything. Okay. I guess there's no one more who wants to add right now. So I'll just quickly get to it that you are very close to the answer, but what it says is that venture is something which is an initiative, which is an effort at building something, an organization, a community, a product or a service or anything which is built with an thought process of solving an issue. And also, as per the dictionary, venture also indicates to an initiative or a business which is a slight bit risky. Okay, something which has a more than moderate amount of risk factor added to it. And capital is something which you folks were mentioning right now, that the initial or some sort of an investment in the business for a certain purpose. It can be a variety of purposes, but whenever there's some investment in form of any resources coming in, that is the capital. And capital can also be of various kinds. So why I wanted to understand this from you is because ultimately there is something, an industry itself, which is called the venture capital industry. And what these people do, they look for startups who are at a high growth phase or has a great potential to grow in terms of size, scale, their impact, as well as their revenue. And what these venture capitalists do, they invest in. They do a certain sort of a deal where they make a transaction happen, and in exchange of maybe equity, which is a partial ownership of the company, or maybe a revenue sharing model, or some other arrangement that can be done. So this is what venture capital means. Now, venture capital firms, they come in at a very later stage or at a mature stage of an organization, right? But there, if you see an organization, it goes through various stages where once someone finds an idea, then they try to validate that idea through talking to people who can be potential customers for that solution or that product. And after they do so, they try and go to build a minimum viable product or an MVP, right? And after that is built, they again go back to these people and say, hey, you know what? This is what we have built. Why don't you try this? Does it solve the purpose? Does it solve the problem? And they gain their feedback and they come back, make changes to the product or service. Then they launch it to the market. Once they launch it to the market, that is when the actual growth of that organization starts, because revenue starts pouring in, the scale becomes large, and that is when human resources, maybe manufacturing capability, maybe service providing capability, maybe much more resources are needed to support that business, right? And this support can be coming from different types of funding. And these different kinds of fundings, what I've listed down for you here, are of 4 broad categories. So anyone wants to try exactly or anything that comes to your mind when you see any of these words: revenue, debt, grant, equity, anything, anything that crosses your mind, please feel free to unmute and share. Come on, you answered the last question.
Sir,
Very nice. Yeah, please.
yeah, sir. Revenue is what is generated from selling products or services by the company, and
Absolutely.
yeah, debt is a kind of loan which is given at a certain percentage of interest that you have
Amazing.
to pay back. Yes,
Yep.
and grant means it's a grant. It doesn't have to be returned exactly. It's like a kind of investment uh, without any urgency of return or something like that. It is just given to the company so that it can grow and bloom. And
Absolutely.
yeah, equity is where you uh, pay some money or some resources or capital in pay some money to get a portion of the company. For example, if I am a I am doing the funding in some company, I would give them 5 crores for 1% of stake in the company. That's what equity is.
Absolutely. What is your name?
So my name is Devoshi Roy.
Hi, Devoshi. This is a brilliant answer. You have hit all the right notes for all the different segments. So, everyone, please give a round of applause for Devoshi. Devoshi, you're in which stream of engineering and which year?
Sir, I am currently in 4th year of information technology department.
Brilliant. And do you also plan to maybe launch something of your own, or are you exposed to the startup ecosystem in some way?
Yes, sir. Currently, I am serving as the president of the startup club by MCKVIE.
Oh, brilliant. I think the club is in right hands then. Thank you so much, Devoshi, for all the
Thank you, sir.
answers. And
Thank you.
I wouldn't go after and explaining this because Devoshi has done a brilliant job and has made my life easier by answering it very, very accurately for all of you. So this kind of conversations are also something which I think you folks should be having within college, because you have people like Devoshi whom you can understand, brainstorm ideas, and see if you can solve your problems within yourselves. And if something is out of your reach, then feel free to reach out to people whom you think can add value. So that is very, very important. So I think we discussed about the types of funds, what is a VC, what is a venture, what is capital. Now, the main question all of you might have, that how do you actually go ahead and raise funds? So again, it's a very long, complex process, often takes several months, several quarters for a funding round to be closed and to make that successful transaction happen. But in general, if you see the broad aspect of it, how it functions, are like 3 major steps. The first step is your documentation and application, where you keep all your business documents, which shows the credibility of what you're doing, what your numbers are, what are your projections at a place. And then you go on to fill the application form for certain different processes very, very minutely, so that whenever a set of people who are reviewing your application and might have a potential chance of a funding, from that application itself, they should have a clarity about what you're doing, what your potential is, and how you're going to grow. That is only when they would go ahead and have a conversation with you, or start this conversation of having a transaction by giving you those funds in exchange of an equity, right? So that is the first broad step. Now, the second step is shortlisting and negotiation. These are, even if you apply, you would have to understand what kind of investors you want to go. You might be receiving several offers from different sources, right? But when you receive these offers, you would have to understand the pros and cons of having an investor or an investing group on board. So you can have certain very specific parameters to understand. You can check what kind of companies this person or this venture capital group has invested in already. How are these companies doing at this present point of time? What kind of support other than just the money does this person or individual or group give you? What kind of value addition does this person do to you? So for example, you might have 5 spaces or 5 different areas in your business. Your team maybe are handling 4 of them really well. One part maybe not going really well. So at that point of time, if you find an investor who can also join in as a mentor and help you take care of that part which is not doing really great, is a good step or a good way to choose your investor, right? So be very mindful while you're shortlisting. Think it through, discuss with people, discuss with your mentors, and then after you're done with that shortlisting, now negotiate for the amount that you're getting in return for what partial ownership of your company you're giving them. Because it's very important, if you are bringing a person to be partial owners of your company, you need to understand what would be their level of engagement. Would it be high? Would it be something which might disrupt your regular work, or would it be too low? And that also might not be a great option. So be very careful with that, and then negotiate to make sure that you land up on the best piece. But be very careful again with the fact that maybe for a percentage or a half a percent, do not lose out on a great deal. So you would have to make decisions, sometimes very hard decisions, but go with your feeling and a calculated metrics in your mind that yes, this investment, this amount, this equity dilution is good for me. Let's go for it, right? So be very clear about it. And finally, after when these steps are done, ultimately there would be a thorough check, a sort of an audit for all the documentation, all the numbers that you are presenting. And only after they find out that yes, whatever you have mentioned to them or shared with them stands true, that is when the funding and the ultimate transaction happens. And yes, now you have the capital to invest maybe in your growth, or to maybe set up a factory, or to expand to a newer geography and other different aspects. So now when I think you have understood what are the broad major steps to raise funds, now it's very important to understand why would a VC fund you? Or if you are a VC, or if I am a VC, what should you bring to me? Or what should you bring to me to make sure that you get my money, right? So there are, again, very minute detailed structures are there for what works for a people, a person, or a group. But on a general basis, what works in the ecosystem, in the industry, is that a typical VC would look at your company's growth and whether you are able to grow 8 to 10 times in just about 3 to 5 years. And which at this point of time, with technology enabling everything, is not a very difficult task. Or I wouldn't say it's not a very difficult task. I would say it's not an impossible task. With the right team, with the right motivation and guidance, an organization can reach that level. We have seen so many organizations reaching that level. As Ravi was mentioning, today we are the third largest country in terms of the number of unicorns, the number of startups, and it's growing on a huge scale as we even speak. So that is one metric, 8 to 10x growth in just about 3 to 5 years. Because if I'm investing my money in you, I want to understand what kind of returns you're getting. It's as simple as that. Then the VC also looks at what kind of market size or what kind of people, what is the magnitude of people you are addressing your solution or product. Right? So, for example, if you build a solution which maybe addresses 20 people in your locality, that is not something where a VC would be investing in. But if it does for 20 million people, yes, the VC would be interested in that. Is there something that came in chat notification or something? Got a question. Okay. All right. And the VC also looks at what kind of team, what is the background experience of the team, because ultimately these are the people who would be executing everything. These are the people with whose motivation, passion, and energy the company would basically go from 0 to 1 and 1 to 100 and henceforth, right? So it's very important to have that very strong set of people with integrity, values, and most importantly, passion and skills to drive the business. They also look for how, yes.
Sir, I want to ask you something.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Sir, I was asking that my maternal uncle is starting up his business of delivering water from here to there. Sir, is there any means that I can technically develop any app through which this water transportation can be done?
This is a very good question. Is it okay if I take it at the end? Because it is very different from what I'm talking about right now.
Okay, sir. Okay.
What is your name?
Sir, my name is Anand Mohanjha.
Okay, Anand. Just remind me towards the end of the session. I would be answering this question, and Ravi would, I am pretty sure, would happy to fill in a lot as well.
Okay, sir.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. So coming back to the topic, they would also want to understand what kind of innovation you're doing. How different is it from all the other solutions that exist in the market, right? Because if you are not innovative and if you're doing the same thing which everyone else is doing, then what is the difference? Why would they invest in you and not the other person, right? And what guarantees growth for them or what indicates growth for them, right? And finally, the investors also look at how exactly is your equity or ownership of your company diluted or distributed within maybe co-founders, investors, and other stakeholders. So if they are not getting a large chunk of the pie, that is a large chunk of your company, they might be very reluctant to come in, right? So these are the broad factors or major points which venture capital organization would judge you on before they take a decision to fund you or not to fund you, right? So this is again, I think I'm pretty sure a lot of you would have this question in your mind: when exactly to raise funds? And the answer is there's no correct time to raise funds. And at the same time, every point of time, if you feel that you need investment or resources coming in, that is the most accurate time. The whole idea is that if you can stay away from investment, external investment, the more autonomy you have in your company. But again, at the same time, if you are taking investment, you also get maybe additional resources, mentors, guides who can help you with their experience of guiding your business, and you have maybe a higher chance of succeeding with the venture, right? So for a typical VC funding, it's usually at a stage where they are scaling, where they have built the product, tested it in the market, they have understood what exactly to launch, what is the market size, they have sold a certain amount, a certain quantity as well, and they are now maybe trying to sell larger amounts. They are trying to sell in newer places, in newer countries. That is when, or maybe they're trying to start with a new product line or a new service line. That is when a lot of these organizations would need a huge amount of money coming in to set up and establish those processes. And that is usually when a VC would be coming in with their series of funding in exchange of an ownership of the company, right? And just to lay it out in front of you, usually it starts from a first round of investment, which is called a sort of a pre-seed kind of round, where you basically start off, try to build the MVP out of it. Then you get a seed round where you make further developments to the product and maybe do a sort of a pilot or a beta testing. After that, even before pre-seed, there's a round called an angel round, which basically gets you to start off. And after you're done with the seed, that is when your usual VC round starts. It starts from series A, B, C, and it goes on, depending on what kind of equity you're diluting and what kind of resources you're needing to run the company. Right? So I'll take a pause. Is there any question related to what I'm talking about right now? Anything maybe that you want to share or ask? Anything? Except for Anand's question, which I have in mind, and I'll answer towards the end of the session. Okay, then I'll
Sir,
move on.
I can ask
Yes.
a question. So
Please go
you
ahead.
just mentioned the angel investing round. So
Yes.
does the angel investors keep only consider the idea uh, they are going to invest in, or does it require something else to show to them to get an angel investing round?
Yeah, very good question. And so it actually varies. It depends on the kind of investor that you're onboarding. Some investors would be really okay with giving you a certain amount just based on the idea and maybe your personal skills, experience, or the team who is working on it. Some investors might want to look at a MVP or a base structure or some sort of a other strong sense of validation before they invest. But usually at this stage, either the MVP or a small work in progress, or maybe at an idea stage also, angel investment comes in. But do remember that angel investment is something which is a small amount, and usually it can be secured if you know people personally or people know you that yes, you have been doing great work or you have done great work in the past, and the idea that you are bringing right now is also exceptional, which can make a difference or address certain problems or solve certain problems. That is when that kind of angel investment comes in. But again, concluding my answer, there's not a specific rule that it has to be an idea or it has to be an MVP. Ravi, if I have missed out on something, please feel free to add in. Okay, I think then I'll move on. So, what are the points that you should keep in your mind? Because if you're going for a round of investment and you are giving out partial ownership of your company, there should be certain things that you should be very clear about. So, getting a VC on board to your business at an early stage might not be the best idea, because maybe at that point of time you're figuring out certain things, but mostly what VCs would care about is their return on investment, right? And there is a high possibility that you might have to deviate from your vision about the organization that you're trying to build, or there would be undue interference in the kind of work that you're doing, which might not result in a great way. But again, there are exceptions. People with early rounds of VC have done really well. But again, as I mentioned, be very careful and be very mindful of this decision, as in who, when, and then what quantum you are bringing in an investor on board, right? Then the next point is build very strong networks and keep them engaged. It's first you connect with people, talk to them, understand, maybe share certain values, but be very mindful of people's time. Do not go to them with any random thing. I would suggest that when you are reaching out to people and you want to have a conversation about something, make sure that you also have some sort of a value addition to that person. Otherwise, why would people give you their time? And only go to people on maybe getting doubts clarified after you have done your research really well. So, for example, if I have to go to someone to maybe solve a certain thing, I would make sure that I have tried everything from my end to find an answer or a solution to it. And if I haven't been able to, then I would be reaching out for external help. So in that way, whenever you're talking to that person, they would know that you have done your research and you would be up to speed as well. Right? So be very mindful of that. And also, when you're working to raise a fund within from a VC organization, try to build rapport with a person within the organization who can root for you, who can be your champion within the organization and say, yes, I know these people, they have been doing really good work, and I think we should go ahead and fund them. Because that sort of an internal influence goes a long way in getting the deal from the organization, right? Uh, the next thing that I would have to say, and thanks to three, four of you, you have been proactive, speaking up, even if it's not correct, even if there is slight mismatch of what you wanted to say and what the answer was or what you said. Be proactive and talk to people, understand people, participate. That's very, very important. And when you are proactive, you would be meeting a lot of people. You would be building those networks, and you would have to be proactive to keep them engaged. And finally, be very, very prompt in decision making. But that doesn't mean you would rush through it. Be data oriented, have numbers to support your decision, but take the decision quick, take the decision fast. Don't ponder over it. Don't overthink it. Have data, have metrics which shows that, yeah, this may be deal what I'm going to take right now is going to benefit me, and take that decision fast. So I think with that, I come to the end of my presentation. Uh, is there any other question than what Anand asked me?
May I ask a question?
Ravi, yes, please
Sorry,
go ahead.
sir. What are the resources which should we follow so that we can get in-depth knowledge about such things?
I couldn't get you. Could you come again with your question?
Sir, I am asking that what are the resources we should follow according to you so that we can get a very in-depth knowledge about such things.
Okay, got your point. See, there are various websites out there which have credible information which you can go to. Things that I can suggest are Your Story. That's a great platform to understand things and be updated with what is happening in the industry. Follow LinkedIn, build a profile on LinkedIn, follow conversations. That also helps a lot. There's a website called Ink42, INP42. Follow that as well. That would help you to, again, be updated. And on social media, I'm pretty sure each and every one of you are on various social media. So all broad organizations, startup communities, they have their profiles on social media. And especially places like Twitter, where a lot of conversations happen. So try to be a part of them. Even at the beginning, if you are not a part of it, just be a silent observer, right? Okay, yeah, I'll just write it down for you.
So that my question, sir, please.
Yes, Anand, I'll take your question right now. So you mentioned your uncle is starting a water delivery business, right?
Yes, so water transportation basically.
And when you talk about water transportation, what is the locality or range we are talking about? From like, so if I have to talk about point A to point B, what would be the average distance?
Sir, can you tell it again? Actually,
Okay, yeah, I'll tell you. So I'm trying to understand if water transportation has to be done from point A to point B. So what would be the distance traveled from A to B on a
So
usual day?
actually, there is a lot of distances in any locality. We want to transport that water. Actually, sir, that लोग खरीद के पानी पीता है ना सर, वही
हाँ हाँ,
जार जो होता है सर, तो
वो जो
वही
जार होता है ना,
सर वही जार मतलब वो ये नहीं रहेगा, मतलब उसमें से पानी लोग पी लेगा, उसके बाद वो जार जो है वो वापस हम लोग लेकर आ जाएंगे। तो सर एक मतलब मोबाइल में एक एप्लीकेशन रहेगा ना कि इतना दिन तक वो पानी चला एंड उसके बाद वहां पे खत्म हो गया तो वी कैन ट्रांसपोर्ट दैट, क्योंकि सर सारा चीज तो हम लोग को याद नहीं ना रहता है, तो वो रिमाइंडर अगर रहेगा
हम्म,
टाइप का, तो उस तरीके
देखो
का मैं
आनंद,
build
हाँ
करना
हाँ,
चाहता
अब आपका क्वेश्चन मैं समझा, मैं आपको बताता हूँ। अभी आज आप किसी को बोलोगे कि आपके स्मार्टफोन पे एक ऐप डाउनलोड करो, तो आज मे बी आई डाउनलोड द ऐप, बट टुमारो आई वुड नॉट वांट टू कीप इट इफ इट इज नॉट समथिंग व्हिच आई एम यूजिंग ऑन अ रेगुलर बेसिस, क्योंकि हमारे फोन में अभी स्टोरेज स्पेस और बैटरी का प्रॉब्लम सबका है, ठीक है। तो इसीलिए बिफोर ट्राइंग टू बिल्ड एन ऐप यू वुड हैव टू अंडरस्टैंड कि उसका क्या वैल्यू एडिशन है, लोग रेगुलर यूज करेंगे, एंगेजमेंट होगा ऐप में, उसके बाद ही आप जाके वो ऐप बनाने का सोच सकते हो। पर अ गुड सोल्यूशन टू दिस आनंद वुड बी इफ यू हैव अ व्हाट्सएप चैनल। अगर आपका अंकल एक व्हाट्सएप चैनल स्टार्ट करता है जहाँ पे यू गिव दिस नंबर एंड व्हाट्सएप पे मैसेज आ जाएगा, क्योंकि ऐप के थ्रू वही करोगे ना, आपकी एक नोटिफिकेशन भेजोगे
हूँ।
कि आपका
यस
पानी खत्म हुआ कि नहीं एंड कब चाहिए, कहाँ पे चाहिए, कितना चाहिए, राइट। तो ये चीज अल्टीमेटली क्या हो रहा है, एक मैसेजिंग, एक कम्युनिकेशन, टेक्स्ट मैसेज ट्रांसफर हो रहा है। अगर इसके लिए ऑलरेडी एक ऐप है विच रन्स वेरी वेल एंड if people are already using it, everyone you see would be using WhatsApp. So why have a different medium? Easier, आपको खर्चा भी नहीं लगेगा, कोई एक्स्ट्रा झमेला की फीचर झमेला कोई इश्यू नहीं है, तो WhatsApp this can be easily done.
एक्चुअली व्हाट्सएप का तो
हाँ
सर एमबी बहुत ज्यादा होता है ना, तो उस ऐप का एमबी कम रहेगा, मींस स्टोरेज स्पेस थोड़ा कम रहेगा उस टाइप
नहीं
का मैं।
नहीं, आप WhatsApp तो ऑलरेडी सबके फोन पे होगा ना, तो दूसरा ऐप जो जो भी छोटा ऐप भी है, लोग क्यों यूज करेगा, सिर्फ पानी मंगवाने के लिए। तो सोचो एक ऐसे जार मेरे घर में 3 दिन 4 दिन में खत्म होता है, तो मैं 3 दिन 4 दिन बाद ऐप ऑन करके मैसेज करूंगा, तो मेरे को सही नहीं लगेगा। एंड टू बिल्ड एन ऐप ऑफ अ क्वालिटी विच पीपल वुड बी यूजिंग।
नहीं सर, मैं मैसेजिंग का बात नहीं कर, जैसे कि सर नोटिफिकेशन आया, जैसे उसका घर में किसी के घर में, सर आपके घर में पानी अगर खत्म हो गया ना,
हाँ
तो
हाँ,
आई विल गेट अ नोटिफिकेशन दैट उनके घर में पानी खत्म हो गया, एक सेंसर टाइप का उस बॉटल में लगा रहा है, उस टाइप का सर मैं समझाना
ओ
चाह रहा हूँ।
अच्छा, आप एक हार्डवेयर डिवाइस की बात कर रहे हो, पर
एटलीस्ट
ये
सर वो
देखो,
उसके अंदर लगा
हाँ हाँ
रहेगा और उस पे
हाँ
खत्म हो जाएगा, तो मोबाइल नोटिफिकेशन आ जाएगा दैट दिस वाटर इज गोइंग टू एंड अप सून एंड आई
हाँ,
विल बी ट्रांसफरिंग दैट वाटर
got
वेरी
your point. Got your point. See, there are startups who are already doing it. Okay? There are organizations here in Bangalore who has supply of water, and based on that, an app ecosystem is in place जहाँ पे आपको notification आ जाता है कि आपका पानी खत्म हो रहा है and वहाँ से supply आ जाएगा। ये सब already है। आप थोड़ा एक बार research करो कि ऐसे drinking water startups क्या क्या है, and try to see आप कुछ different सोच रहे हो कि नहीं, and then try to analyze the proposition that you have in mind. ठीक है?
okay sir, I will research about these things and then I will.
Yes, yes.
Okay, sir. Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
All right.
Thank
No
you, sir.
worries, Anand. Any other questions?
Sir, I have
So
a
I
question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sir, as a new startup, whom should I approach at the beginning? A startup incubator or angel investor?
See, this is an absolute answer. Okay, that as a person, maybe if you are not having any business experience and you want to start up, an incubator is the place where you should go, because incubator is something which gives you all the basics of business, the know-how, how things are done from different fields. Maybe you are an engineer, you don't understand about finance, maybe you don't understand about marketing, maybe you don't understand about legal aspects of it, right? So that is where the incubator comes in. They provide you with all the knowledge and the networks and the skills that are needed to have an overall understanding of the business and how you can run it, right? So definitely an incubator first, where you grow that holistic knowledge and the skills and the network to run your business, and you take your business from an idea or an MVP to a market ready stage. So
Okay,
definitely
sir.
an incubation comes first. Yeah, I think then there was Vicky answering answering
Yes,
question.
sir.
Yes, go ahead.
Yes, sir. Sir, I want to ask that I already have a business plan idea, and already I'm working on it from last 1 year, and I have
Okay.
got several informations. I mean, I have created a blueprint. So to but execute that, I need some help, like how to work in. Means, sir, I don't have any idea about all the fields, like marketing field or
Yeah,
like advertisement, all those
absolutely.
things. So, sir, is there any platform to learn about those things, or is there any such websites from where a startup person, or if I am trying to learn all part of things which is unneeded for a startup? So, is there? Can you
See,
suggest me something?
yes, sure. Vicky. And congratulations on keeping up this and trying to build something of your own. I think the primary thing that you need right now is you can read up on the internet. There is enough resources on various websites which talks about there are proper YouTube videos, the easiest medium to understand different departments and functions, right? But even more than that, if you are serious and you want to take your business to the next level and properly grow it, then I would suggest maybe you look at incubators where you would be able to understand all these processes in details, and you would be receiving support. Techno India has an incubator called Technical Surrogate Ventures, and definitely that is something where you can get a lot of help, a lot of support in structuring your business and taking it to the next level. But again, on YouTube, on several blogs, you would find information for your preliminary research. But reading one way and implementing those and seeing how it works in real life is very different. So you would have to be in a sort of a place where you get help, you constantly work on it. Does that answer your question, Vicky?
Yes, I got that.
All right. I think Rahul has a question on chat. The biggest problem with the startup plan is thinking if there already exists a solution for it. So is there a platform where we can pitch our ideas and can know whether a solution exists or not? Sadly, I think there are no platforms like this where you can maybe put ideas and check whether that exists or not. But I think you can take this as an like inspiration and try to build something. But the major problem would be that uh, the information is so vast, it would be very difficult to collect all the information, store them, and make them accessible to people, right? There might be someone in some remote corner of the world working on something, and it might be very difficult for anyone to access that information. But if you can find a way to solve that and see how that information can be relayed to your forum and different people can have access to it, and in what capacity and in what percentage of that information, that is something which maybe you can start researching on and maybe build in some time. Yeah, Devoshi has a great answer to it, that yeah, you can always check that, but that is not a complete assurance of something of that sort does not exist. There can be people, but if they are doing something significant, their presence would be on the internet, right? So any more questions? Any points to share? Anything?
So I have something to say.
Yeah, Devoshi, please go ahead.
Yeah. So you mentioned that it is required for a person who is starting out to look for seed investments or something like that. And if, as a founder or a co-founder, I'm uh, reaching out to this venture capitalist or someone like an angel investor, what should I look into as a person, that whether my field or the domain which I am working in, the investor is working on a similar kind of field or domain, because it has both pros and cons. Just because if a person doesn't understand the way I'm trying to do business, he will not be able to help me properly. And the second, that is a con of this kind of thing, is that sometimes we see that big investors or big uh, businessmen, they actually eat up your business, take a major stake on your company, and will not give you the driving seat in your business. So what's the best way to go after this, so that there could be a balance of both the things?
This is a brilliant question, Devoshi. And again, as this is a practical scenario, and we see that happening every now and then, always things are not predictable. But the only way that you can be safe or certain about it is if you have done your research about a certain person or a certain investment. Because if they are doing it now, there are chances that they might have done it in the past. So if there is a track record for that person or for that investment group doing something of that sort, then I think it's a red flag. You should not go to them. But again, coming to your initial part of the question, whether to go to a person who is from the same industry or similar line of business, obviously there's an advantage. They can help you with their experience, but again, the disadvantage is that they might eat you up. So you would have to take your gut feeling, and you would have to be kind of subject oriented, whether it's the right choice to do or not, whether to go for this person or not. Obviously, there would be data, obviously, there would be instances which would help you make your decision. But ultimately, your gut feeling or how you're going about it at that point of time would be a huge differentiating factor. I hope that answers your question, Devoshi.
Yes, sir, it does. Thank you so much.
No worries. Any more questions? Any thoughts? Okay, I think there are no more questions. So we can close at this point. Thank you so much for having me here. It was a pleasure interacting with you.
Yep. Am I audible? Okay, so very good evening to all. I am Dr. Tanmay Roy Chaudhary of MCKVIE Institute of Engineering, and I am really honored to propose this vote of thanks on behalf of my institute as well as on behalf of myself. First, I would like to thank Mr. Ravi Ranjan for his encouragement to the students to build up startups or to become entrepreneurs, or to be more precise, what I heard, to become a technopreneurs. So it was really very, very inspiring, and I think it's all about not being job seekers but job givers. So that's very, very important. So to build that culture, to inculcate that feeling of doing something on your own is very, very important, and which Ravi pointed out very, very nicely. So I thank Ravi Ranjan for that. And next, coming on to our speaker, Mr. Anamitra Ghosh, I'm really grateful to him for pointing out the nitty-gritties about this funding opportunities for startups. I think since I am in the teaching line for around 15 years, and I've seen students like you having many ideas, but they drop off the ideas. They get disoriented or discouraged just because they think that maybe there is no funding opportunities. Even in MCKVIE, I have seen there are many ideas that they come up with. But again, maybe they don't know what are the funding opportunities, or maybe a slight change in their ideas could be very, very innovative and could really attract some investors. So I would really thank Mr. Anamitra Ghosh for pointing out the prerequisites or the requirements that you would be needing. It was very, very insightful, and I really think that you should take a lot from this. And Vicky, you asked a question about this, where to go for funding and all. I think you all must know as students. Yes, Vicky.
Yes, sir. No, my question was actually I got a funding in I met an investor and he is interested in my idea. He is going to invest in my idea. So I wanted to know that how I will come to know about all the branches because I am a tech person, so I know about the
So yeah,
technological things
yeah,
and
yeah,
there
yeah,
are
yeah.
much more things in a business. So how I will explore all those things?
Right. So I
I need
think
a
Anamitra sir pointed out very correctly that, you know, in his slides, there was one point that you should build a good team. So first, even I would say this, that you should build a very, very good team of yours and try to be, cross-disciplinary in your work if you can be. So building a good team is a very, very important factor. And as he mentioned, that you should go for incubation centers to get help for that. And all of the students must know this, that the IIC of MCKVIE, there is a Yukti portal, and you people can submit your ideas in the Yukti portal, and there, if the ideas are worth funding, then you could receive help from different funding agencies, or you could receive grant to build your prototypes, and then you check your prototypes, because not building prototypes is not the end of it. It's an iterative process. You have to change it, and as Anamitra sir was mentioning, that the scalability is very, very important. It should address a lot more people, so that these venture capitalists would fund. So Yukti portal, I would suggest all of you to, if you have any innovative ideas or any ideas that you have, you should put forward in the Yukti portal of our institute, and let's see what happens. So thank you again to our speakers, and last but not the least, I would like to mention our deep sense of appreciation for the Startup Club, MCKVIE, and to all the members of our IIC committee, especially Mr. Sourav Ghorai, for arranging such a wonderful program. Thank you once again. And with sincere feelings and gratitude, I would like to take your leave. Good night. I think formally I should end the session. Good night to all.
Thank you so much. Have a good night, everyone.
Okay.
Sir, actually, I'm not from your institute. I'm a dropout student. I got your message. Yes, I got this from Instagram and I joined your session because I thought this will be helpful, and I'm pretty sure that I got something new to know.
It's all right. Thank you for joining the session. We got some very, very insightful questions from you. So, anyways, you can always reach out to us. It doesn't have to be that um, you are studying in our institute. Just because you don't know whether you will probably find your co-founder, next co-founder within the institute. So it has nothing to do with the institute. You can always reach out to us. Thank you so much for joining the session.